This video is going to be one last look at the Ravens-Texans Week 1 matchup in Baltimore. I'm going to be trying to give you 5 things to look for in the game, 5 plays or concepts that I think the Ravens might run, / players who can have an impact on specific concepts. Really going to focus this on the offense for the Ravens. At this point, I think that's the side that's most exciting for all of us, myself included, even though I consider myself a defensive guy in terms of coaching. This offense intrigues, I think, all of us. What is it? What's it going to look like? What are they going? Are they, the Ravens coaches? What do they think we're really good at already in terms of what's our best stuff to run right off the bat to put the Texans defense in the most conflict possible? And I'll tell you up front from other previews that I've done, you've probably heard this before. I expect the Texans to come in with a very sound defensive game plan. I would not call it conservative, but I do wonder how often they're going to be matching up man-to-man, man-free situations with the number of weapons the Ravens have, assuming everybody's out there playing on Sunday completely healthy. OBJ, Bateman, Flowers. Andrews obviously is not, it sounds like. Likely. Kolar, Duvernay, assuming all those guys are out there, it's going to be difficult for any team to match up. Maybe you've got 1 or 2 really good cover guys to deal with Bateman and OBJ, but how do you cover 3 of them? And then when Andrews comes back, to further that point, it's going to be even more tough to match up. But I'm gonna focus this on the offense, and we're gonna assume that we get the run game going. That's a big assumption though, because I think the Texans are going to play hard on defense. They come downhill and their defensive line attacks. This is an oversimplification, but I think at times their D-line plays the run on the way to the pass. They get off the ball really quickly. I have noticed that some of their guys are not using their hands as quickly as you would assume in certain cases. They're kind of letting people get into their body at times, but they're attacking. They're coming downhill with the D-line. It's going to be super fun to watch Will Anderson match up with Morgan Moses, because I think Anderson's generally going to play on the Texans' left, the Ravens' right. Like I said, we're going to assume that the Ravens get the run game going for the purpose of this video, that we can establish some of that, particularly in the first half. But I think Lamar and Todd Monken want to make a statement. And Lamar usually does that in week 1, right? That's usually his MO. It's just so you know, the Texans are a 4-3 team in their base. They did show a 3-4 or 5-2 look a few times in the preseason, don't get me wrong. So we're going to try to talk about how the Ravens can try to manipulate them into favorable matchups. On 1st and 10, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, when we go 21 or 12 personnel, that's usually going to elicit the Texans' base 4-3. And the question to figure out or to watch unfold, I guess, is do we, the Ravens staff, prefer to attack the Texans' base defense right now as it stands as far as the game plan? And then, things could change during the game. But would we rather attack their base defense, their base 4-3, or do Todd Monken, T. Martin, Lamar, and the offensive staff think that our 11 personnel versus the Texans' nickel is more advantageous? Here's 5 things to look for from the Ravens offense this afternoon, or 5 concepts that I think we're going to run, or at least selfishly I'd like to see us run. All right, so first, 11 personnel. I think we're going to attack to the boundary. I've said that multiple times about Todd Monken's offense. This is slant flat. Snag flat was a concept that the Ravens utilize a lot in 2022. To the boundary, to attack the boundary side inside linebacker. Now, in this case, for the Eagles, the boundary side inside linebacker blitzes and disappears, and then the field side inside linebacker has to run with this flat concept. What I mean by flat concept is you're getting a snag, and then you're getting Gordon out into the flat. Sometimes this, not a snag, a slant. Sometimes it ends up being a snag, and that's actually going to be a concept that I refer to multiple times in this video. Against the Texans, this boundary side inside linebacker will be Christian Harris, not Charles Harris. I've been talking about the Lions too much. It'll be Christian Harris in 11 personnel with the ball on the hash. He's generally playing to the boundary. And you can see in this case, we've got the tight end to the field because it's bunch. Again, I'll refer to bunch a little bit more later. 11 personnel, you got 1 running back, 1 tight end set to the field, but I think that we're going to have the tight end into the boundary a lot, at least pre-motion or pre-snap, and then he'll probably move often to the field if we want to go trips. So that's an establishing thing that I think we might use early: snag flat, slant flat. And then how does that translate to other things we might do? Well, running back into the boundary again. This time the tight end is on the same side. So you got a gun, what I would call a gun in my opinion, flex A. And it's snag and go. So what they're doing is really, they're making it look like snag smash. So I'll draw it up after we get the motion by Laquan Treadwell. So snag would normally be the number one here, running back or someone out into the flats, but we brought the tight end into the equation, and oftentimes you're going to get a smash route like that, trying to occupy the safety. In this case, Kolar is going to kind of sit this down right around the 10 or the 11-yard line. Treadwell is going to make it look like snag and then run this up the seam. They're putting the boundary side safety in a lot of conflict. I think Monken and the offensive staff are trying to create a lot of confusion with the boundary side inside linebacker. But you can see what Tampa Bay's done here. They've pushed both linebackers to the side because of where the running back released. I suspect if the running back was to release to the opposite side, that this guy would help out more over here, basically create wherever the Ravens put 3 in terms of potential receivers, the defense, I think, is generally going to respond with 4. So they get 4 over 3 and then 3 over 2 backside. But I think this is a concept that Monken is going to use to complement the snag flat. It could be with or without the tight end there, but I think you kind of got to occupy this safety somehow with a third receiver or a second vertical to that side, I guess is the way I should say it. But it's running back, tight end, same side, what I call a gun. Bring the tight end into the boundary, which I think is going to create as much conflict as possible for the boundary side inside linebacker. Over to the field, you get 3 over 2. It's 11 personnel again. So whoever this nickel is for the Texans is going to be matched up over whoever the Ravens have to the field. Zay Flowers, OBJ, Rashod Bateman. Maybe we put the tight end over there. My point in showing you this is attacking to the boundary is foundational for Todd Monken. And number one, and number two, the snag concept is something we used a lot in 2022, but we hardly ever went to the snag and go. All right, tight end into the boundary with the running back. So a gun again, could be a run concept, could be sniffer. All right, and I'll show you the sniffer on the next play, but I'll draw it up here on this in a moment. So tight end, running back, same side. And what I think Monken's trying to do is, again, attack the boundary side inside linebacker, attack the boundary side safety, force those guys to get into a downhill mindset on some of the stuff. And I think he even wants to force the boundary side safety to come downhill pre-snap. Try to create a one-on-one for the boundary side receiver, whether it's Bateman, whether it's OBJ, whether it's Zay Flowers. Didn't get many yards on this, but we could have a sniffer situation where the tight end lines up in front of the back and leads up to try to ISO the boundary side inside linebacker. And on the next play, you'll see it's a sniffer with Kolar, and then he leads up, and then he slips out into the flats, but the ball is in the middle of the field there. So we can't be super tendency-oriented in terms of a gun, ball on the hash is never the sniffer with the tight end leaking out into the flats, and that's the play we'll show you here in a moment. But another A-gun situation, play action fake, which is complementary to the one that I just showed you. We end up trying to run a screen to the field. It doesn't work. It's a nice job by this D-tackle, I think, for the Bucs. But point is, trying to give the defense consistent looks, and I think the Bucs are in their base 4-3 here, to be honest with you. Give the defense consistent looks and give them multiple plays out of that one look. I could see the Ravens running a screen to the field. Our screens have been inconsistent so far. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section, but it seems like our screens have been very inconsistent throughout the preseason. All right, sniffer. So again, tight end, running back, same side. Ball's in the middle of the field, though. You can see here. And then this is where you're putting that boundary side inside linebacker in conflict. Now he's not to the boundary side because, like I said, the ball's in the middle of the field. But even if the ball's in the middle of the field, 11 personnel ball in the middle of the field. Look where the nickel defender is. He's to the side where you have two receivers. Well, that makes sense, right? They're going to match talent. If we did have Andrews and it was 12 personnel and Andrews was here and Kolar were here, where would you put the nickel defender? You'd put him to Andrews' side. And I'm going to show you a play of likely later on where that's exactly what happens. I think it's against the Giants. But in any case, putting that guy in conflict in terms of run pass, trying to get him to come downhill and then exploit that by slipping the tight end out into the flats, trying to take advantage of that boundary side coverage. Now, just so you know, the Texans' corners go right and left. So you're generally going to get Nelson, 21, to the Texans' right, and then Derek Stingley to the left. The Ravens' right. The Ravens' offense is right. And then also Will Anderson plays on their left. Christian Harris is going to be a boundary side inside linebacker when it's 11 personnel, but when you got tight ends on the field like this, 21 or 12 personnel, he'll line up to the strong side, at least based on what I've seen in the preseason. So we can assume that we know where they are, and the Ravens will kind of tell us what they think of those players based on what we attack early. There will be some other references to 11 personnel in here, but 20 personnel, and I'm not going to show any film of 20 personnel. 20 personnel is going to bring a whole new element into it because it's, Ricard is on the field with a tailback, J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards, but it could be 11 personnel because Ricard could slide over to tight end and pass pro or slip out into the flats. So that's an interesting facet. How do the Texans treat that? This is going to be a question I ask every week. Do the Texans treat that with their base defense, their base 4-3? Well, we've got three receivers on the field. Or do they go with their nickel? I think they have to. I think they have to go with their nickel. And that 20 personnel, to me, is a real X factor for this Ravens offense. Ricard at the fullback, having him on the field, seeing how the defense matches up, nickel versus base, could change the way the Ravens call plays. All right, now let's talk about 12 and 21 personnel. Without Andrews, I guess it's a slightly different equation. You got Likely and Kolar, who will, more will be expected of them. They'll probably get more snaps, we could assume, and more on Likely a little bit later. But this is going to be a formation, a twin wing, that a lot of teams have used against the Texans in the preseason. I'm not sure why. It seems to be an inordinate amount of plays from twin wing early on in games. I'm not sure why that is. This is last season's film, so you've got 21 personnel, Ricard and Oliver down here, so tight end fullback, and you're going to get, I think, from Deshaun Jackson, you're going to get this deep kind of curl, and they occupy the other DBs with a vertical by, I think, Duvernay. Got to establish the run game to get these linebackers moving and create more space between the second and third level defenders post-snap. In terms of once the play fake has been completed, you're getting more space with linebackers stepping up and then DBs moving off. So you're creating hopefully more space in between the second and third level for the receiver to come back to this football. Cool play. Nice job by Lamar getting the ball there. I think it was a touch too late. Not too late, a little bit later than I would have liked it. All right, so you can see same person, same formation, same exact formation. Ball on the right hash, and I'll show you just so you can see it because I'm sure there'll be people who would talk about how do you know where they're going to line up. Well, here's Will Anderson on the defense's left. Here's Christian Harris on the defense's left, and here is Perryman in the middle of the field. Now let's go back. You got the Will linebacker widened up. Why am I bringing this up? Well, if the Ravens go 12 and 21, and the Texans keep their base defense on the field, that will be the Will linebacker. If they were to go, let's say 2nd and 8, and we go 12 personnel, they're probably going to go nickel. This will be the nickel defender. So there's a difference in how they'll match it personnel-wise based on the down and distance. There's also a difference in how capable that player is in stopping a pass play. You could see us run a bubble out there to Zay Flowers early, I think. But in any case, you got 12 personnel, twin wing. Texans have seen it a lot. Ravens know how they're going to line up, they being the Texans, and have probably tried to plan plays accordingly. All right, 12 personnel, could be 21, like I said. You got twin wing RPO 2019, week 1. The Texans, like I said, are going to widen up their will in their 4-3 base. I think they're going to be more disciplined than this inside linebacker free safety combo is for the Dolphins in 2019. So I'm talking about this player right here. And then the safety whose feet you can see right at the top of the screen. I mean, they're just going to take off, with this run concept. And then you'll see another, with this run look by the running back, you'll see another play against the Chiefs from 2021 where the Chiefs inside linebacker to the field plays it totally different. But if the Ravens want to isolate Denzel Perryman or isolate the will linebacker, they can do so with a concept like this one. I'll go back to the All-22 here in a moment. So 12 personnel. You've got a DB, I think another DB, a free safety, what looks to me like a nickel defender, and a corner. So the Dolphins have matched it with their nickel defense. The Ravens are still going to run the RPO. Brown kind of brings this route in. And to me, this is something you would see the Ravens do early on. It's line up with two tight ends or the tight end fullback into the boundary, running back to the field at a twin wing. See how the Texans line up. We'll have complementary plays built off of this. It won't just be, this play. Run the RPO, see how they react. See if you can get those inside linebackers moving. When I say moving, I mean get to the end zone angle. So you talk about these guys here. Get them moving with the run concept. Get them moving with the run concept. I would be interested in the Ravens if they're going to run some QB counter stuff with the back cross and face into the boundary and then come back with the QB counter that was so, effective for the Ravens last year. But, obviously we dropped it on the NFL in 2020 in terms of the Ravens using it a lot. But 12, 21 personnel, are we going to get base? Are we going to get nickel? How are they going to attack it? That's one of the first things I'm looking for. I'm sure you've got your own things you're looking for, and that's cool. Mention them in the comment section. You can run the same concept from a spread formation with the same personnel. You could have a tight end up there as the X, likely, or Kolar, and then you could have Rashod down here as the slot tight end and 21 personnel. Run some stuff to that boundary side. Put twins to the field. Flowers, OBJ, Flowers, Bateman. Haven't mentioned Nelson Aguilar yet. If there's no nickel, the will's going to have to widen up. You can see what the Chiefs did in 2021. They just basically told this guy to freeze. So you could really be talking about a give read here. And certainly, I think Freeman did hit a big run on the same concept in that game. But you can see this guy has just frozen. What's Denzel Perryman going to do? Theoretically, this could be Perryman. This could be the will in their base look. And this over here could be Christian Harris. Christian Harris, I think, is going to go to the tight end side in their base defense and then the boundary and 11 personnel when the ball's on the hash. So in any case, a way to put the defense in conflict, see how they respond, build the complementary plays off of it. Look, this might not be anything to do with Todd Monken's plan, but to me, this looks like some of the things the Ravens should see if the Texans can cover. And then I would advocate for throwing the bubble out here. Throwing the bubble out here, even if the will is standing in this area here. Throw the bubble out here. Let's go block up the corner, and let's get Zay out in space to the field, see how the Texans match up. They can't roll this safety down and this one down, which is what I talked about earlier. We want to create the boundary side safety having a need for him to spin down to defend some of the things we do. They can't do both. It's impossible. If they do both, they're going to open themselves up to long pass concepts, and all we got to do is hit one. We'll scare them out of it. I think the Texans are a really good defense. Hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm down on them. My point is I think the Ravens have a lot of options to try to attack them. Harris, we know where he's going to be. I'm not saying he's the guy that we should attack. I'm saying I think he's going to be the guy that we do attack. All right, another element, like I said, is Zay Flowers in that number 2 receiver position. We've seen this play enough. So we're still talking about the same formation, generally, either the 12 or 21 personnel. And having Zay Flowers there would be a perfect candidate to complement some of the RPOs and bubbles and run concepts with some verticals. Climb concept, like Marquise Brown hit here against them. I think he also hit that one against the Broncos the same year from the slot. Gives Lamar easy reads, tries to put their defenders to the boundary in conflict. Somebody's got to run a route out here to occupy boundary side corner, boundary side safety. That's kind of a Greg Roman thing. Opportunities for big plays. Saw it in 2022, somewhat different formation over here with Ricard and Andrews, but 21 personnel. Could be Ricard and likely, obviously. And you're going to get Demarcus Robinson here on this little climb concept. Same basic formation, same basic play, I should say, as the one you just saw. except 1 year later. We don't make the connection. All right, so 11 or 20 personnel. Why did I mention that earlier? Because this will be Ricard, and we could move him around. He could be to the boundary, like down here, like I was talked about a couple of times already, or he could be to the field, creating a bunch set. And this is one thing that I want to see the Ravens run against this Texans defense. Yeah, Will Anderson's going to be over there to that side, and he's a fantastic football player. I want to see us run stretch to either side. The Ravens have been a right-handed team for years, whether it was short yardage stuff, whether it was run concepts. It's just interesting for me to see if we become more balanced. This particular concept would probably be more of like a Justice Hill play because he hits things 100 miles an hour. J.K. and Gus are good on stretch, but I would like to see Justice Hill threaten the edge, get those guys moving side to side. Why? Everything I'm trying to talk about is complementary plays. Get these guys moving at the second level, create the possibility for a boot with Lamar, put that backside D end or backside guy in conflict. Now, in this case, we're locking it. We're blocking him and bringing the tight end, Andrews, back through this big old B gap that you got. So you're creating conflict on the backside inside linebacker because you're blocking the backside D end, and you're creating a whole lot of space for the running back to potentially cut back into, holds that backside inside linebacker. It'd be the field side inside linebacker. In a 20 personnel group, it'll all depend on, what the Texans are playing. Are they playing their base 4-3 or are they playing their nickel? There's a lot of weapons that can be used today, even if Andrews is out. Haven't really even talked about Bateman and OBJ. How do the Texans match up with them? When they declare man, there's going to be a matchup that's in our favor. Could be Zay Flowers, could be Isaiah Likely. It's going to be the last guy I talk about, the last thing I talk about here. This preview's gone on a little further than I wanted to. I don't know if you guys are looking for stuff like this on a Sunday morning. I'm sure plenty of places have Ravens content or have football content, so you have to let me know. And I certainly don't hope I'm not overlapping with any other Ravens content creators putting something out on a Sunday morning. So it's going to be a tough cover for the Texans to match up. Man, this is not man. Isaiah Likely, to me, could be a guy that takes advantage if the Texans go to a lot of softer coverages. And what I mean is things similar to what the Broncos played last year in Baltimore. Now, we didn't have Lamar in that game, but they're playing a lot of off coverages. Safeties and corners off. Now, this is a game-winning drive. So you could say, well, you're 87, 86 yards away from scoring the game-winning touchdown, so we're going to play softer coverages. Well, they're also looking to get a stop here and just win the game outright. If Zay, Bateman, and OBJ can force them into some softer coverages, I think this guy could have a field day because I'm not saying he's going to have 12 catches, but when Likely catches the football, he makes people miss or he breaks tackles. He's got immense potential, if you ask me, to turn what could have been a 4-yard gain into an 8-yard gain, or what could have been an 8-yard gain into a 14-yard gain. It just seems to be what he does. He's got great change of direction, great awareness. For a guy who is our second tight end, or second best tight end, it's a huge asset. And I don't know that he's going to be the guy to defeat a bunch of man coverages. Now, he'll be, who would be guarding him? The fourth best cover guy when they go man. That's a pretty cool situation for us as Ravens fans. He's down here at the bottom of the screen last year against the Giants. This is man, by the way, and I think you'll get the end zone angle. If we get the run game going and we win some matchups with Zay Flowers, Bateman, and OBJ, they play softer coverages. I think this guy could have a 6 or 7 catch day, even though, we're all disappointed that it sounds like Mark Andrews isn't going to play football today. Guys, let me know what you think of the preview, what you think of some of the things I've talked about. I think this Ravens team has a lot of options against the Texans. Not that the Texans don't have a good defense. I think they've got good personnel over there, and I think they're going to play very sound and very disciplined. I would look for their team to improve overall throughout the course of the season, they being the Texans. I think they're going to get better. I've said it many times. I think they could be this year's Lions in terms of a team that maybe starts slow and turns things on after 5 or 6 or 7 weeks. We've got a lot of weapons for them to deal with. I do think that Todd Monken and Lamar and T. Martin and the offensive staff will find a way to attack them based on how the Texans line up. Don't be surprised if the Texans come in and play a lot of two-shell coverages or give a lot of two-shell looks and play a lot of quarters and split field stuff. Keep plays in front. Avoid giving up the big play. Force Lamar and the Ravens to execute their way downfield. I mean, that's
what a lot of the league is moving toward in terms of defense. Now that it doesn't apply necessarily to Wink Martindale. Likely's down here in the slot, by the way. But I think the Ravens can get into this game and score 28 plus points. And I'm talking about a zero turnover situation. No turnovers by either team. I could see the Ravens winning this game 28-17. But look, got to mention Dameon Pierce is a huge issue to deal with. The guy is capable of breaking tackles against any team. All you have to do is see how he played last year against the Jags. I think he broke 17 tackles in one game. I think 26 carries, 99 yards, 98 yards, something like that. The Texans are a formidable opponent, but I do think they're going to have trouble figuring out a way to get 20 points or more against this Ravens team unless there's turnovers involved. If there's turnovers involved on either side, then my prediction, which I'm really not good at, I don't like predicting scores because I don't think I'm good at it, but I think my prediction for score can be widened one way or the other, or tightened one way or the other, depending on who commits the turnovers. I think no turnovers. I'm looking for the Ravens 28-17, maybe 28-13. I could see the Texans scoring 3 times, 2 touchdowns, 1 field goal, 1 touchdown, 2 field goals. I think the Ravens are still going to play a good brand of defense without Marlon Humphrey, but it certainly creates additional barriers for the Ravens just outright stopping people over and over again repeatedly. Texans with C.J. Stroud and Dameon Pierce. I like Tank Dell. I really like Nico Collins, the big receiver. I could see him being a problem to the boundary for us. No turnovers. I can see Lamar coming out here and playing a fantastic game. 28-13, 28-17. At the most, for me, I could call 31-13, but I don't think that the Ravens, without Marlon Humphrey, are that much better than this Texans team, and I really think 31-13 is getting a little far out there in terms of a prediction. No turnovers. Could I see the Texans keeping this to 28-24? I'm not sure. I feel like they would need to be +1 in turnovers, the Texans, being +1 in turnovers, in order for it to be like 28-24, something like that. Getting 4 scores against us, I think, will be tough with the way we defend the run. But Dameon Pierce is a huge problem for most people, and if we don't tackle well today, then you could see that score flipped 28-24 in the Texans' favor, because I think they're a team on the rise. DeMeco Ryans seems, if you ask me, seems to have everything pointed in the right direction. And I think the Ravens have a good matchup for week 1, but I don't look at this as an easy win at all. They got to come out and execute. Look for the matchups. Look for the situations where they can manipulate people and get people in space that we want, and be physical in the run game. I know that the offense is changing, but J.K., Gus still give us a lot of power and speed and ability to make people miss and get an extra 2 or 3 yards per play, create a 2nd and 4 where maybe it should have been 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 7. And then 2nd and 4 just opens up the play action pass game and puts defenses in conflict. I haven't even mentioned the ability that we have with Lamar to make off-schedule plays that really not many people in the NFL can make, other than like Justin Fields, or maybe Josh Allen. Appreciate you guys' time. If you check the video out, let me know if you're looking for content like this on a Sunday morning. I'll try to do 5 things or 5 concepts I think we'll see every Sunday morning, as long as I'm not overlapping some of the Ravens content creators' time slot or release. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. Enjoy the game today. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this video, please consider grabbing a link to this content and sharing it out on social media to help this video get more reach.